got an air raid shelter on my land, which I'm about to show you. It's completely original, and I've absolutely rammed it with World War II stuff. Now, I apologise for the light. I've got a light rigged up, but it just shines one way, so you're going to get shadows. But I'm going to get inside it and show you a few bits of what we've got here. So let me climb in. It's a bit difficult because I've literally got to climb in and down, which I'm doing now. Sorry about the film. Up and in. Right, I'm in. Okay. Right, so I'm inside the shelter now. It's a standard Anderson shelter. There is nothing on this shelter that is modern. It's all original. I was very fortunate to find a guy that had Anderson shelter parts that were not fitted during the war, so they're absolutely mint. So I've got a mint shelter with all the nuts, the bolts, the panels, everything, and nothing's rusted out. It is actually undercover, so it's not gonna rust anymore. I've absolutely rammed it full of World War II bits and bobs, which I will try and show you. But I do apologise for this light behind me. It's extremely bright. Okay, starting off then, we've got helmets, we've got gas masks, we've got first aid kits, gas masks again. It's quite interesting. We've got baby's gas masks, the Mickey Mouse gas mask. This is the rattle up here, the gas rattle that the air raid wardens used to use. So you can see it's got ARP on it, which is quite nice. I got that in bits at an old junk fair. I didn't pay much for that at all. I may have seen this. This is quite interesting. This is toilet paper, but it's got written on it, can you see that? It's got government property. It's like tracing paper, but it's actually World War II toilet paper. We've got shrapnel. There's some shrapnel. We've got sealing tape, you know, for around the doors and the windows. We've got the lights. These lights used to light up the shelter. They're shelter lights. Different examples of different makers of shelters. That's merino, the sheep. You see the sheep's head there? We've got the spanners and some spare bolts, nuts and bolts. These are proper shelter bolts and shelter nuts. They're Whitworth. We've got baby's gas masks down here. Sealing tape for the windows. Let's give you a bit of it's a bit difficult to film in here because it's very confined. We've got baby's gas masks, a stirrup pump, anti-gas ointment, which is just there, all different colours. Shell dressing. You could argue that's Anderson Shelter related, but it's more. In fact, it is. It's got air raid precautions written on it. Look, see. So yeah, it's shelter related. Rescue party, casualty station, warden, police. I think I've got near enough one of most of the helmets that were issued. Baby's gas mask again on the bottom. This is quite an interesting thing. This is an adapter. Drop it, it's made of Bakelite. It's an adapter, it's called the moon lamp. What you do is you stick it in a 240 volt plug socket, you put a little 3 volt fuse, 3 volt bulb in there, and it gives you a nice little glow rather than a 240 volt large bulb. So when the blackout was on, you could shove that in your light socket. As you can see, it's got a light socket there, and run a tiny little bulb, and it sort of, so you can use it in a blackout. These are quite interesting as well. These are Dana lights. They've got a little bulb in them, made of Bakelite, and people used to darn wool and fix stuff while they sat in the shelters, and they used to use these. The top unscrews, and it takes a couple of batteries and a little light in there, and they're called. They're quite rare. I mean, I've got two. I've got a yellow and a green one. I've not seen many of them. They're little Bakelite things again. This is standard shrapnel here. Certain stuff is standard stuff. Where else have we got here? We got, hang on, certain stuff is, there you go, there's your standard shrapnel there, look. Okay, alright, what else? That's quite interesting. That's a light that shines downwards, so it doesn't show to aeroplanes. So it's an air raid warden's light. Air raid precautions, that's the instructions for rigging up this shelter. I've got 2 or 3 of them actually. There you go, there's the shelter. I've got quite a few of these mint ones in boxes with all the bits on. They've never been used. They're absolutely pristine. There's another one. I think I've got 2 or 3 of them. Moving on from World War II. What's that doing down there? Moving on from World War II. I've also got Geiger counters from the Cold War. There's one there. There's 2 mint ones underneath. And there's one there. Now these don't normally work because they've got valves in them. The valves over time, they corrode and they stop the machine from working. But they're good for an example of what an old Cold War Geiger counter looks like. I'm going off the subject slightly there. We've got World War II gas mask there. There's the baby inside. See its legs. There's another one up there. Baby inside. Okay. These are standard gas masks from children that went to school. You know, when you see them in the films, they're wearing them. They're all intact. They're all in there. A hell of a lot of this stuff I've had donated to me. A lot of this stuff's come out of lofts. A lot of it I've got from bric-a-brac and charity shops. I try and keep the gas masks with paper in the back. What you've got to be aware with gas masks, I will tell you this. Some of them have asbestos in these filters. Not all of them, just some of them. The worst ones are these baby ones. These baby gas masks have got horrible asbestos in them. If you go online, you can download this document. It's asbestos in World War II respirator canisters. And it was done by Portland Down Chemical Defence, and it explains the situation with these respirators and asbestos. In a nutshell, you never put any respirator on, never ever put any of these on, because there's a risk of asbestos. I tell you now, these canisters, if they've got it, they've got a thin slither of asbestos in the middle. These things have got more, but the general rule is you don't put them on, because as long as you're not going to play football with them, they're quite safe. As long as you're not playing football with these respirators, they're not going to cause any trouble. If you start putting them on and breathing through them, back then in the war, they didn't realise asbestos was so dangerous, and they've got a thin layer, like a film, like a sheet of paper of asbestos as one of the filters in amongst the carbon. So the best thing to do is, some of these haven't, some of them have, but the best thing to do is just don't put any of them on, then you can't go wrong. All these gas masks are asbestos risk, but they're well contained. The asbestos is right in the middle of the container, the filter. And these are the worst. The baby gas masks, don't go plunging these plungers. So, you know, that's how you gave the baby air. You plunged them like that. You pumped it. Don't go doing that, because these are the worst ones for asbestos. These baby gas masks are the worst ones for asbestos. But this is a fantastic read if you want to look into it a little bit more, of what the situation is with the asbestos in gas masks. As long as you're aware that you've got it and you don't go putting them on or use them as a football, you'll be fine. You just literally keep them in your shelter, keep them safe, and don't mess about with them. They're fine. Okay, so there's a nice one inside. That'll be absolutely mint. I've got quite a few of them actually. They're lying around. So I hope that gives you a little insight. Just a matter of interest on the shelter. There's one bunk bed there, which is for a child. There's one bunk bed there for a child. Unfortunately, I've filled it up with bits. There's an adult bunk here. Another adult bunk down the bottom. Okay, and another adult bunk here. And another adult bunk down the bottom. So this shelter sleeps 4 adults and 2 children. So there'll be 6 people in this shelter, and honestly, I have hardly got room to move. I can walk up and down, but that's about it. I've hardly got room to move in this shelter. It's so restricted, but again, it'll take a blast nearby. It would not take a direct hit. If you got a direct hit on this, then that was the end of it. But it would take a blast on the house. If this was in the garden, you'd survive. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into my Anderson shelter. I've also got an absolutely mint Morrison shelter, including the springs and the bedding on it as well, which I will do a little YouTube film on, but I'll be honest with you, it is absolutely buried in all the other stuff that I've got. Let's just get the camera down there. There's a little bit of Cold War Geiger counters. You're wondering what they are? They were anti-gas eye shields. I think they're a bit of a dead loss, to be quite honest. There's loads of them about. There's some more there, look. They got reissued in the 50s, but if you look on the back of these, they're dated 1943. That's why I put them in here. This is quite interesting. Is this one full up? Yeah, this is full up. Right, so this is anti-gas ointment. Keep away from eyes. There you go. Now, for some reason, they're all different colours. Blue, green, yellow, light green. So I'd imagine some of them are for tropical use, some of them are not tropical, some of them for the army, some for the navy. There's another 2 there, look. There's a green one and a white one. Number 3, number 6, number 2. That's how it works. That's about it. I'm going to upload this, see what you guys think of it. If you want me to do any other films, just let me know, and I will put some films together of some of the stuff that I've got. It's mainly World War II era, and I've done it just to preserve this stuff for future generations, because a lot of it's getting lost and destroyed. But this is a lovely shelter and I love it. Okay, thanks for watching.